And good evening, and welcome to Conversations with Curtis, March edition, which is also our bass edition. My name is Curtis Davenport, and I'll be your host and moderator as we are very excited to this evening have a discussion with some of the finest bass players, the men of the low end theory, so to speak, in the Charlotte area and beyond. And we're very excited to have them with us. Before I get to introducing our esteemed guest, our esteemed panel of these five gentlemen tonight, I first want to make a very special thank you to our sponsors, without whom Conversations with Curtis would not be possible. Saying a big thank you to the Knight Foundation, to the Arts and Science Council, to the North Carolina Arts Council, and of course, O's Place Magazine. Thank you to all of you for your sponsorship and for making it possible for us to keep jazz alive here in the Carolinas. So what we want to do as part of our conversation is we're going to talk a lot about what's going on with these gentlemen, a lot about their influences, how they came to be where they are, and all of the other things that make this program possible. We also encourage you as our audience a little bit later during the evening, as we get to about 8:45 or so, we'd like to open it up for questions from you. So keep thinking of those questions. If you have them, place them in the chat, and we will make sure we get them out to you. So without further ado, let us introduce our panelists. First, we want to introduce a gentleman who's been with us numerous times in the jazz room, considered one of the finest bassists in our region. He is the director of band and orchestra at Bradford Prep, a professor of music at Winthrop University, truly a pro's pro. Please welcome Mr. Dave Vergato. There's Dave. We want to also next welcome a gentleman who has done a lot of work in his early years. He is, I guess, the old star of our panel here today. He's talented. We know this because in his early years, he won a number of competitions about talent. Teens Got Talent and also Air Force Got Talent. He was a 2018-2019 part of the Coltrane All-Stars led by Mondre Moffett. He was one of the 8 finalists in the International Society of Bass Jazz Division a couple of years back, in which he was a second-place finisher. And also, he is currently the bassist with the Piedmont Triad Jazz Orchestra, as many of you know that orchestra, led by a good friend of ours, Chad Eby. Please welcome a good friend of ours, Mr. William Mo Better Ledbetter. And welcome, Mr. Ledbetter. There he is. All right. Third up, batting third. I feel like you're introducing our starting five here. Yeah, our basketball team. Okay. Our starting five here. Next, we have a gentleman who you know from his many appearances in the jazz room. He also led our Paul Chambers tribute early on in our years. He is the musical director of the Greenville Jazz Collective. He has also been a part of the Sharon Jones tribute band that we'll talk about, and the Jaco Pastorius tribute. His excellent EP, Follow Me, should be had by any fans of the jazz bass and jazz music in general. Please welcome our friend, Mr. Shannon Hoover. And welcome, Shannon. Next, we will bring in a gentleman who has quite a resume in the annals of jazz. He has been the bassist for such luminaries as Elvin Jones, Ellis Marsalis, Diana Krall, Betty Carter, and of course for Harry Connick Jr., which he played. If you watched Harry's shows during the years it was on, you saw him as the house bass player there. He also led our Charles Mingus tribute a number of years back. Please welcome our friend, Mr. Neal Caine. There he is, Mr. Caine, coming up on the screen. All right. And finally, last but not least, he is our first bassman. I say that because he was our first bass player in the jazz room when we started. I guess it's getting on about 8 or 9 years ago as part of our Bill Evans tribute. And he's truly one of the first call bassists in the region. His latest album, Tribute to the Basses of Jazz, was critically acclaimed. We'll talk a little bit about some of the other things he's done, but we're very excited always when we have this gentleman with us. Please welcome our friend, Mr. Ron Brendel. And there we have Ron. Okay, so we have our starting five, our starting lineup on the court now. Gentlemen, welcome. So glad to have you with us. And let's get started. Let's jump right in. Talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about why. I mean, the bass being that big instrument, the big low-end instrument, especially if you're playing the acoustic, it's that big thing that I've heard many people complain about having back problems, just from carrying and lugging around. So I'll start out with anybody who'd like to answer this question first. What made you decide to play the bass? Why, of all the instruments in all the world, little Bogart, all the instruments in all the world, you walked into that one? What made you decide on playing the bass?
Well, I'll start.
All right, Dr. Kane.
I was a violin player as a kid, Suzuki violin.
Okay.
And I got into jazz, and I wanted to play jazz music. And I really wanted to play the drums, but my mother forbade it. She was like, no drums in the house. She was like that. She's very supportive, but that was it. And I asked around, and people said there's never enough good bass players. So I figured, strings and strings. And they told me if you're a good bass player, you can work. And that was really why I did it. I don't think my personality, I was kind of flashy. I think I was supposed to be a trumpet player or something, but, I ended up with the bass.
Supposed to be a trumpet, but you ended up with the bass. Okay,
yeah.
Well, that's a good story, and it's taken you far, man. So the rest is history. Okay, Mr. Brendel, I'm going to throw that to you next, only because I know and I've read about how Charlie Hayden made quite a difference in your life. Was Hayden the reason you decided to play the bass?
Yeah, actually, it was. Frank Kimbrough, who just passed away a couple months ago, and one of my best friends, we were sitting in my apartment, which we'd done bunches of times, and listening to new music, and he just picked up this LP. It was Charlie Hayden and Hampton Hawes, the piano player. It was a bass and piano duo. It was called As Long as There's Music. And I just remember listening. I mean, it was just, I don't know, it was just the sound of his bass, his tone and the minimalistic way he was playing. And I thought, wow, I was a guitar player at that time. And I thought, I'm going to play bass. And that was like the moment, that it happened for me.
That was that. Yeah, Charlie Hayden. I mean, that's a great place to start if you're going to start somewhere. Truly one of the legends. I see Mr. Hoover leaning forward in his chair. Something tells me he might want in on this. What got you started, Shannon?
Yeah, hey, Curtis. So, I actually got started. I was in a boys' choir when I was 10 and 11. And, we worked on the music theory and, learn how to get some vocal qualities and stuff like that. So we had opportunities every quarter to sing with the local symphony, and loved hearing the bass and the tuba. So those were the two instruments I started on, was bass and tuba first, and then bass as I got into middle school. So I just always loved the low end and felt how powerful it was. And it's like, I got to play that thing, and I didn't really play upright bass until a little bit later. But yeah, that the bass always kind of resonated with me from the early days.
Okay, Mr. Vergato and Mr. Ledbetter, love to hear from y'all as well. So,
all right. Well, I actually, when Neal mentioned the trumpet, I actually started on the trumpet. So I played trumpet from the time I was in fourth grade, and then I had a buddy up the street that was really good on the electric guitar, and so I wanted to jam with him. So I got myself a bass. So we started jamming together. And then I was playing in the school jazz band. And by the time I got to about 15 years old, they said, we have an upright bass. So I got me this upright bass, and then story goes, my substitute teacher from my school said, "Hey man, you should go check out some Ray Brown." And he sent me, that kind of led me on this journey. But actually, before that, I was checking out Les Claypool a lot. Yeah. So it was really from Les Claypool to Ray Brown. But I had this really phenomenal bass teacher that was probably the biggest influence for me to become a bassist. Was my teacher. His name was David Pello, and he was the director of jazz studies at Carnegie Mellon University, and now he works at University of Southern Mississippi. So, yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic bassist. He studied with Marcos Machado recently.
Okay. And Mr. Ledbetter, same question. Want to make sure everyone's touched on this one.
All right, so pretty much I started my bass career about 5, 6 years ago. So when I moved down here from Hampton, Virginia, where I'm from, I came to North Carolina A&T State University to study engineering. And I was part of the jazz band. I was playing guitar in it. And long story short, the electric bass player, who's a good friend, he was playing drums because there was no drums there, and they had a beautiful old K. And I was like, oh shoot, let me check this thing out. You know, I see it in movies, cartoons, and everybody knows Tom playing it. Is you ain't my baby. That's always been like a thing. So I just started messing around on it, and the next thing you know, my professor, Mondre Moffitt at the time, he put me on bass, and I walked in. He was like, "Man, you keep coming and practicing that thing, I'm gonna put you on." I was like, "Man, get out of here with that mess." And then I came in on a Wednesday, and he's like, "Congratulations, Will, you're on bass." And I was like, "Okay." And I don't look back. It's actually been one of the biggest blessings for me.
Okay. I throw out another question to y'all, and this is something, and the gentleman's name went out of my head as well as I know it, and I hate myself for not being able to think of it. He played with Sonny Rollins for a long time. Bassist.
Cranshaw?
Bob Cranshaw?
Yeah, Cranshaw. Thank you. Yeah, it was Cranshaw. Cranshaw once said, Cranshaw for the early part of his career was known for his work on acoustic. After he had a terrible accident, some of y'all might know about that, but it made him look, he still played acoustic. He preferred at that point to play electric because it was a little less tough on his back and easier for him to maneuver with. And also Sonny liked it because Sonny liked the return to that sound. It's from the electric instead of the acoustic. So gentlemen have a preference. Do you have a preference for electric, acoustic? I know there's some like Ron Carter tries to avoid, though he will, if forced to it, if you put a gun to his head. I know Carter will try to avoid the electric under just about all circumstances. And there are others who have the preference for the electric. So preference. Anybody have a preference, electric or acoustic? All right, but we'll go with Mo Better first. Go ahead, Mr. Ledbetter. Go on, man.
I've always liked bass, whether it's, electric or upright, but it's just something about the natural sound of like a good acoustic bass. Especially, I love gut strings, so like can't really do that on electric bass. So you can't beat that thump, man. It's just the thump. That's why you got to go with acoustic.
Okay.
Do you use flat wound strings on the electric? Because it wouldn't. I always thought flat wound strings would be the equivalent of gut strings on the electric. Is that true?
They don't feel the same. Mm-mm.
Yeah, of course not.
They. Mm-mm. Okay. I don't know, man. There's some instruments each one is different from the next, but it's just the feeling of upright, how it leans up against the body, and then
Okay. Any other preferences? Jump in.
Personally, I think I'm about 50-50. I think when I first moved here, I was doing almost all upright bass. And then as it turned out, I started getting a lot of calls for electric bass. I think it was because they found out I could read. So I started getting calls for that too. So I'm like pretty 50-50 as far as that goes.
Okay. Anybody else want in on this one? Got a preference or a thought on the matter? Or you just take what they give you?
Well, I prefer, and I have for the last 40 years, upright. As a matter of fact, I used to be an upright snob. I thought, well, upright sounds better on everything. It sounds better on funk. It sounds better, and I've learned that's not true. And since I injured my shoulder almost a year ago, and it's really, I've gotten a relapse since November, and I can't really play any upright right now until it can heal up some. Because I've got like completely torn muscles in my rotator cuff, my bicep tendons torn, my AC joints torn, and got arthritic. It's just like as the surgeon said, it's a laundry list of everything that can be wrong with your shoulder. But through exercise and healing, I think it'll heal. But anyway, right now I prefer electric bass, but just because I can play it. it's hard to raise my left arm up right now, but I can put it out. And, I've been listening, like you're talking about Bob Cranshaw. I don't mind hearing an electric bass walk now. I mean, I've heard some people who get really good sound on it. If you use flat wounds and you play like an upright player, you can get by on it. I really enjoy. I really gotten serious about electric bass only in like the last 10 years, and I really enjoy it. But for jazz and most things, I prefer upright when I can get back on it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And we're hoping for a speedy recovery for you, Ron. That you can
appreciate
get
it.
back to doing what
I think it'll come
back.
Hopefully and eventually.
Okay. Well, hopefully, this for better or for worse, this current condition going on for about a year, this COVID has still got us all a little bit, out of action. So hopefully that will give you more time for healing, because we definitely want you back at full strength, man, whatever you're doing, because you're one of the best to do it. So
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Appreciate you.
I
man.
feel honored to be here with these great players, man. It's just, I love every one of these guys.
This is truly a killer crew here, man. There's no one here in the bunch. I mean, I'd say everybody does it well. We got something coming in. Comment from our friend Barbara saying, "To me, the upright is jazz and electric is funk. I love thumping the bass and being able to hear more of how the player interacts with the bass." And again, it's a stylistic preference. I know that, as I mentioned before, Sonny Rollins in his later recordings said that he preferred that sound, what he could get it. It helped him be able to get into the pocket more if he could hear Cranshaw with the sound coming off of the electric versus what he would hear from the acoustic. Personally, I just, from a personal standpoint, I preferred on Sonny's recordings those where Cranshaw or others were playing acoustic. But hey, I'm not going to argue with Sonny Rollins, at that point. So, or for whatever he preferred. Anybody else on that preference question? I don't want to leave anybody else who's got a thought on that. Yeah, go ahead, Neal.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm a big upright guy. I mean, with Dutch strings, I'm like Ledbetter over there. As far as jazz is concerned, I mean, I really like that earthy, dirty sound. And I hadn't been playing a lot of electric. And like you said, when Harry Connick got the TV show, I had, he was like, "I want electric." There was a lot of funk and rock and all kinds of stuff. So I had to pick the electric back up after many years, and it was challenging. When you're playing acoustic, you think, or I thought, the electric's easy. It's not very physical. But when I had to pick it back up, man, it kicked my ass. It's another physical instrument, another instrument physically to deal with. But yeah.
Yeah, to add on to that, it's
go ahead, man. Go ahead. Like I said, this is a conversation. Y'all jump in when you're ready, man. Go ahead.
So like the thing because I play electric bass, but it's just like it's not my preference because this is actually what I play the most. So with that, it's like getting the sound is more like I have to adjust my body, versus more the electric. I've come to terms like, oh wait, to get a bigger sound, you don't have to dig into electric strings. You dial in different EQ on your bass or the amp, and that's been one of my biggest challenges. Like, okay, my automatic go-to is like dig in, get a bigger sound, and I'm like, that's actually choking the electric.
Yeah, it works against you.
Yeah. So turning that mindset off has been one of my things that I'm trying to work on.
Yeah, just for me, I mean, for being somebody who watches and listens more than plays, just when I see a band, and they're really digging in, and it's a different feel when you've got the cat standing there over the upright and everything, in close to the piano player, and then they're becoming like one there, like it used to be with Oscar Peterson and Ray Brown, right in there, in the corner of the piano there, and really where you can get in and hear the sound. It's just a different type of feeling to that for me. Let's talk about, since you were mentioning, Neal, a little bit about Harry Connick. I mean, put it this way, the most, at least, famous as far as what the public would know connection of anybody here. How did you first become involved with Harry? I know you've had quite a long relationship with them artistically at this point. How did you and Harry first meet and begin to work together?
Well, I knew Harry. A couple of my friends were in the band. And it was actually at a weird time in my life. I had been playing with a lot of great musicians in my 20s. And then I kind of reached a point where I was unhappy and I actually quit. I quit jazz and I enrolled. I was about 28 and I enrolled back at Tulane University, and I was going to finish my schooling. And literally the first week of school, Ben Wolf, Harry's bass player, called me and he goes, "Hey man, I just quit. Harry's going to call you." And then 10 minutes later, Harry called me. He goes, "Hey man, I just fired Ben. Can you leave in like 2 days and go to Europe?" So it was just like, and like I said, I just quit jazz, quit professionally. And I was like, I'm going back to school. But I flew out to France and I went on stage the next night. I didn't know any of the music. And it was just, that's how it always happens. It's always like something kind of boom thing like that. And that was in the year 2000. I've been with Harry for 20 years now.
Wow.
Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah, I love the difference in perspectives. Yeah. Wolf said, "Yeah, I just quit." Harry called you and told you, "I just fired him."
Yeah, exactly how it went. It was funny. I didn't care either way. I'm like, I don't care either way.
Yeah, that's impressive because guys like Ben Wolf, that's another bad cat, man. So you
gut strings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ben was really helpful. He was very helpful to me when I was younger. He was kind of a mentor, and he recommended me for Diana Krall's gig too. He used to hook me up. Ben did.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about, and I'm not going to spend all the time with Neal, but there's one more connection I do at least want to talk a little bit about, and that's with the great Elvin Jones. How did that come about? I know you played with Elvin at a later point during his career. How did you come out to work with Elvin?
That was even a crazier story. And I mean, that was the highlight of my life. Like they can never take that away, Elvin Jones. But I was playing with Delfio in his band, Delfio Marsalis, his quintet. And a long story short, I was walking in my apartment building. I see a letter with my name on it just out in the lobby, just out by the mailboxes. Open it up. It's a ticket to Zurich the next day. Now, this is 1994. This is before cell phones and everything. And I called. I couldn't get anybody in Delfio's business. And I thought it was for Delfio and his band. And then I called Martin Butler, the drummer. I said, "You get this ticket?" He goes, "No, man, what are you talking about?" And then I realized this is for Elvin Jones. And I called my mom. I said, "Mom, what should I do? I can't get anything on the phone. I just have this ticket to Zurich." She goes, "You better fly there. You can always fly home." So I said, "Okay." And I got on the plane and I went to Zurich and I waited for like 2 hours. And this guy showed up. Same thing. Next night I was on stage with Elvin Jones. Or that day I was on stage with Elvin Jones. That was it.
So if I'm hearing you right, man, you had the ticket was there. You just got on the plane. You had no contact with Elvin or any of the other cats surrounding him before you got to Zurich. You were just in Zurich hoping that someone would show up.
Exactly. And I waited for hours and nobody showed up. And
Wow.
I'll never forget. This dude, this hippie guy named Freddie, this French hippie guy showed up in a big old van, like some 70s van. He goes, "Hey, Mr. King." And that was it, And then I went to the hotel and I went to sleep and I told the hotel people, because we had to play that night. I said, "Wake me up at 4 o'clock. We have a sound check and a gig." And they didn't do it. So my first day at Elvin, they're banging on the door. I'm jet lagged. I come down late. I was late. And it was great, man. It was great.
Man, that's
wow,
cool.
Man. Can you talk about one thing you learned from Elvin? I know there's many. Just one thing that stuck out in your mind. I mean, he's one of the true legends. I mean, something that you learned playing with Elvin Jones that has stuck with you above all else.
There's so many things I could talk about, but I'll just say this, and it's the same thing I sensed when I played with Betty Carter. It's just the seriousness with which they took the music. Like, it was life or death. Like, there wasn't no talk about selling out or whatever. It was just very, very serious. It wasn't nothing to mess with. It wasn't about Facebook likes and, endorsements. And it was about being committed to this music and being a part of the community and sacrificing for the music. That's what I remember.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think about when you talk about Elven and life and death, I think about that quote. It's a family show, so I won't repeat it in full here. But when they asked Branford what Elven had told him about that classic Coltrane quartet and why they were who they were, and Elven told him is, well, every night when you go out there, you got to be willing to die with a 12 letter explosive. I'll just leave it at that.
Right. It's true, man. It wasn't pretentious at all. It was about some art. You know, there was no pretension involved with those people.
Oh yes. So great stories there. I'm going to want to hear a little bit of the artistry for those of you who aren't familiar with these gentlemen. Going to hear a little bit of what it is they do. We'll go in a minute to Mr. Brendel playing Pocket Full of Cherry. So while we're getting that queued up, Ron, just want to ask you a question. I know another influence you had, and I know we're off in the acoustic vein, but I know Jaco Pastorius has also been quite influential to you, or you met Jaco at one point. Is that correct?
Yeah, I met him a couple of times, but I mean, he influenced everyone. So
yeah.
But I got to meet him. I got to see him play twice, but I got to meet him once backstage when on the Birdland tour, the Heavy Weather tour, actually, in Greensboro, and he was just, super nice and personable. But yeah, he influences everyone, I think.
He was nice and personable. I heard he was really wild.
Well,
depends on when you caught him, I guess.
The quick story is here again. Yeah. Frank Kimbrough and I and some guys were in Greensboro, and the show was over, and we found a place where we could slip behind the curtain and go backstage. So we just walked right backstage, and there was Jaco standing there, and he turned around and was like, "Hey guys, what are you guys doing?" And he said, "Oh man, we came to see you, Jaco." And we talked to him a little bit, and he started telling us all this personal stuff about his home life and how his wife was going to break up with him, and he was a tall guy, and I remember kind of looking up at him just in awe. He treated us like we were old long lost friends, and somebody finally came and said, "Okay, Jaco, we got to go," and he turns, he's like high-fived us and hugged us all. He was leaving, he turned around and looked at us, and he said, "I like you guys, you're rednecks." So that's what. And I thought, but he was smiling, he was smiling. Like, "You guys, you're rednecks," because he was a redneck too, But that's my, yeah. So he was personal. I think he was bipolar, so he probably acted differently. I think that was before he really went south for him, I think.
Yeah, truly. But I know he influenced, as you said, Ron, as everybody's agreed, he influenced so many on the instrument, whether he played acoustic, electric, whatever. He is truly one of the greats, one of the legends there. So let's, if you have that clip ready, we'd like to hear a little bit from the artistry of Mr. Ron Brendel now. Okay. Outstanding, Ron Brendel. I think I've lost Ron from the screen here, which is unfortunate. I was going to come out and ask him a little bit about that, but I think we might have temporarily lost Ron. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him back shortly and talk a little bit about that. That came from his most recent album, Tribute to the Basis of Jazz. Well, I think I see Ron making his way back in. Ron's Tribute to the Basis of Jazz, Volume 1 is the name of his latest album. Definitely worth picking up or downloading, however you would, however you make it available, as long as you're doing it legally and as long as you purchase it. That's a soapbox that I am on constantly these days. Don't stream, or streaming is nice, but if somebody's got something out there for purchase, make sure buying it, especially during these times. That's much better. Let's talk a little bit about, since we're talking about these times, this pandemic time. How are things going? How are you guys as working musicians making it work for you at these times? Now, I know, Dave, you're an educator as well. So has that made things easier for you, or is it still just the same, just as difficult during these times?
Well, I'm very blessed to have a position, as a band teacher. I did that intentionally, to go into the music education field. But COVID has definitely been kind of crazy. It's messed up the program and stuff like that. But it'll get back next year. But I'm also out of nowhere, I got 4 wonderful students down at Winthrop. I had none last year, so all of a sudden I got 4 amazing bass students at Winthrop, and I thank the good Lord for that. And I play at a fantastic church, Hickory Grove Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my friends over there. That's really sustained me throughout this. I've had a few performance gigs. But looking forward to things getting back to normal.
Okay, and that is a blessing to be able to play and to be able to sustain yourself at this time, and so glad to hear that came along with you. Will, what about you? How's things going for you these days?
I'm very blessed and fortunate too, to be honest with you. I play at 2 churches, so I play guitar at one and then electric bass at the other, and those have been keeping let me eat during the week and helping pay rent and stuff and whatnot. And I've had a couple of performances too, so all's been well. Good health, can't complain. Been trying to practice so I don't lose too much endurance, because at the beginning of the pandemic, probably like first 3-4 months, I didn't really play my bass like talking about it. I mean, I might pluck a few strings, but the level that I was at beforehand, man, when I got back to it, that was rough. So I was like, no, I'm not going to let that get me again like that. I'm going to at least do something so I'm still somewhat in shape.
Okay. And Shannon, what about you and everything you've got going on down with the Greenville Jazz Collective? How's that sustaining you during these times?
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. I do teach though, so that's been helpful. I've been doing some private teaching. Had an adjunct job, not doing that, but teaching privately has helped. I started teaching online a little bit about 5 months before the pandemic hit, so I was already kind of set up with the gear and all that stuff to do it. And most of my students are still online, but really my thing has been a lot of gigs, so losing a lot of that income lately. I'm used to playing 3 gigs a day if I can and stuff like that. So it's been rough, but we're keeping it together. Still able to take care of my family. And the Jazz Collective, I started that group with some buddies with nonprofit, and we're we've gotten some help. We got some grant opportunities here recently. We slowly started playing in a couple of places that are safe, and we got a festival we're hoping in May. We got a festival that we're running in Greenville area. And but yeah, it's just, I see a lot of my musician friends. We're trying to get our streaming capabilities together and find different ways to, to make some money. And at first I thought it was gonna be an opportunity to get my chops together and do some of these recordings. But we all go through this thing. If we're not playing, man, we get depressed. It's hard to keep the energy going when you don't have a chance to play and with your friends and stuff. So slowly getting back into that, and hopefully things will be good enough where we can play again.
Well, hope so. Hope everything gets going soon. I know people are getting vaccinated, and hopefully as that continues along, we'll be able to get more people out there, more people feeling safe because of that, and more people playing. I personally think that musicians should be part of the essential workers, man. You guys should be able to get to the head of the line there, because what y'all do, helps keep the public sane, helps keep people, safe, in line, calm, So hopefully we'll be able to get everybody back and up and working soon. Speaking of up and working, I think Mr. Brendel's with us. Ron, can you hear?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, man.
Well, I don't know what happened when my clip was playing. All of a sudden, it just shut me. It loaded me back off, so I'm back again. So. Oh,
okay. I guess you couldn't have too much Brendel there at one time. You were on the clip, so I guess.
Probably true.
Yes. So I'm saying, but I just
what a lot of people say.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to say, well, first of all, congratulations on the album that came from, the tribute to the bassists of jazz, Volume 1, came out a couple of years ago, and outstanding album, and much appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about that, Ron. What made you, at this time, you've had a number of projects out there over the years. Why was this the time for something to do it? Well, first of all, let's talk about who you paid tribute to on the album, and why was now the time to do it?
I don't know. I was kind of stuck, like what to do. I wanted to get a group and do some stuff, but original music didn't seem like something anybody'd be interested in. I was driving one day, and all of a sudden, I just got this idea of like, a lot of my favorite songs are written by bass players. Why not do a tribute to bass players? And so that's kind of how it came about.
Okay.
It's kind of a moment of inspiration.
Okay. All right. So with Pocket Full of Cherry,
it's a good well to mine from. There's a lot of great tunes written by bass players. So
I mean, you had some. So all the compositions that were written by the bassists in this case. Okay. So I know you had Charlie Hayden there and Sam
Charlie
Jones,
Hayden,
I believe.
Sam Jones, Charlie Hayden, Mingus, Gary Peacock, Dave Holland, Steve Swallow, and I think that was it. I'm not sure. Jocko. Well, yeah, it's not on the CD, but
okay. I heard that Continuum. You did, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've had a little bit from all. Let's talk a little bit about. We'll go to questions from the audience. I see a few things have started to come into the chat. But before we get to that, I know we usually, during these, gentlemen, we have some students out there who are getting started out or moving along through their careers on the instrument. And I always like to, especially when we've got a bunch of esteemed guests such as you gentlemen, many of you are educators as what you do. So advice, there's always somebody who's looking for advice for the students. What could you give them? What would you advise them to do? First of all, how would you advise them to keep sharp during these tough times? And what are the things you'd advise them to do going forward as we hopefully move out of this pandemic and back to whatever the new normal will be? Any advice for young musicians up and coming? And I'll take that to anybody who wants to jump in.
Well, I guess I'll go. As a bassist, from my opinion, would be to really get started in the technique. And from the way I was taught, I would just tell you that I did train like classically before I really worked a lot on jazz. So, I've recently been, I'm really into the Francois Rabat kind of style of playing and the technique that is learned through that. And so there's a wonderful series of method books called The Progressive Repertoire for the double bass, which is written by George Vance. There's 3 volumes plus a technique book called Vade Mecum. This is a really good way to get your technique together, but it's not going to teach you how to play jazz. Learning how to play jazz is going to be a lot through listening and really kind of checking out the masters that all these guys have mentioned and doing a lot of transcribing and just getting the sound of that in your head. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I'd like to hear from somebody else there. Somebody think we seem to have lost Ron again for a few minutes, but we'll soldier on without him until he can make his way back. Anybody else on that same question? Advice for the young up-and-coming players?
To be honest with you, for me, like my advice to them is like, find stuff that you like and just really dig into it. I'm very big on sound, so like what sounds good, what moves me. So like what's moving you in a sense, go after that, whatever it may be. For bass players, it's like I'm not really always listening to the lines that they play. I'm listening to that sound that they're getting, because that stuff moves me. And then also, how does that fit into some things I'm trying to do? So I would try to understand the concept of sound within whatever music you're playing.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Sound's the most important thing to me. Your tone. I mean, you can play something stupid, and if you have a nice sound, it's gonna sound good. So, my 2 words is, for real. It's like, and on the flip side, if you can play something real intricate, but if you got a weak sound, it's
a weak sound.
It's a weak sound. So, I just do long tones. I do like a lot of long tones. Pre-pandemic, pandemic, and post-pandemic. I'll be at the crib for long tones, and with the bow, real slow, because a lot of the sounds with the left hand. So that's what I suggest to younger musicians and older musicians and all musicians.
I've learned that from Neal too. I took a lesson with him one of those times I was up in New York, and it really got me in shape. Like working on that making sure my intonation's straight and just keeping my hand right. So that's good information right there.
All right, Shannon.
Yeah, I agree. Long tones. I'm a brass player too, so I took a lot of that from learning trumpet and stuff. I'm like, okay, these players, they just play notes for minutes and just listen to the tone, listen to the note, and that's a big deal when you can transfer that to bass. And another thing I try to get students to do. One thing that really got me, I have a classical degree. I mean, I studied that stuff, but it was so hard. I remember getting into the history of that music, but when I got turned more into jazz, that really helped me see the worth of learning the history of your instrument, of the music you're playing, and even before the music you played. So, for me, along with, make sure you play every day, no matter if you got a game plan or not, just play every day. That's a hard thing to do for us sometimes. So do that, but also just, read up some bios, read up about your instruments. I've got this John Goldsby book I picked it up years ago. I'm sure you guys have that thing, but it's a neat lineage of bass players, and it's a good way to get started and keep the energy going.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I just disappeared for a minute. I was trying to see what questions we had out on the screen, and I was pressing buttons, and when I pressed the button to get into the chat, suddenly I was gone there for a minute. So I missed a little bit of what was said. Apologize for that, but we have a little bit more before we go to those questions. While we're trying to get a hold of those, we do want to hear a little bit more of the music. Let's hear a little bit. Hopefully this time we can hear a little bit of something from Mr. Will. I know he's played with another friend of ours here at JazzArts Charlotte, Mr. Christian Tamber, and they have something on classic Limehouse Blues. So hopefully we'll be able to get that. Will, if you can tell us a little bit about playing with Christian and how it came to be that the two of you worked on that particular piece that we're about to hear.
So long story short, I met Christian playing a gig with Kobe Watkins. And, it's been a good,
cat.
Oh yeah, he's one of my dudes right there. So nonetheless, we and then I play with him. I'm the bassist in Shauna Tucker's quartet now. So and he runs that. So nonetheless, I saw when this pandemic took off. I was like, man, there's nothing inspiring out here. I saw he was doing videos of him just playing like 59 seconds or a minute long clip, so you can get it on Instagram and not have it. How do I say it? Not be in the algorithm, because So anyway, I hit him. I was like, "Hey man, let's do some duo joints. Like, that's give me something to play. We can do it together, have fun, and also build even more of a following." And we reached out, and this was the first one that we did. It's like I wanted to do some slapping with him while he's playing the vibes. So Milt Henn is one of my big heroes. So I was
the
digging,
judge.
Yes. So I was digging like slap happy, and I was like, man, that's vibes and bass. Let's do something like that. And then we worked out Limehouse Blues. So let's check it out.
Right. So let's check it out if we can. All right, yeah. Totally dug that, man. I'd love to see y'all just do that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate
somebody else was saying, I think I talked over you, Neal, or somebody else was saying.
Oh, I was saying it sounded great. Very nice. Yours too, Ron. I was killing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I missed a little bit. I got bumped off again, and got back on. What were you saying, Will, about the Instagram?
Oh, so if you post like videos, if they're over a minute long, you have the option to either cut the video where it fits that, or you can post as like IGTV video. But I've noticed that IGTV videos, one can't promote, but then also the algorithm, a lot of people aren't really come across it versus a regular 59-second or less video. So I learned that from Christian, because he was doing those already.
How did you do this one with the vibes player? Did you do your part and he played along with you, or did you do them together?
So yeah, I played that one. We worked out the form and how we were going to do it and get it within that time frame. And then I sat there and I played it. I was trying to work it out because I think we had to do it at like 300 BPMs. And it took me a couple of tries because I was rusty at that point. And I think I was using steel strings on that, so I had to get adjusted to trying to slap them. And sent that off. He did it. He put it together, and then boom.
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah.
I spent a lot of time doing that slap stuff when I was in school, man. I was a huge Milt Hinton fan. I was doing that all the time, man.
Yeah. He's the cat, man.
I don't do it anymore, though. I can barely do it now.
Yep. The beauty of being young, man. You can do stuff like that.
Yeah. That was about 20 years ago.
We had a couple of questions. One that did come in, I just saw. One of them I think you did answer, kind of was to you, Will. How did you get that to sync up with Christian? I think we pretty much covered that. I have a question coming in from Julian Jante, who says, what have the artists used for virtual technology, such as Jack Trip, etc., for online lessons, live jam sessions, or concerts to help with the latency? They're talking way over my head here. But if some of y'all have an idea what the question is, and if you're willing to respond, please jump right in.
As far as like regular lessons, just maybe a Zoom, if that, but FaceTime or Google Duo. But jam sessions, I can't tell you on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had any luck with that either. I know there's some software out there people are trying, but yeah, for lessons and stuff like that, we don't quite need to be playing together. But it would be nice if there were an easy way to make it work.
Yeah, simpler way just to get it going there. Sure.
I've kind of been stubborn. I'm just hoping this stuff will be over soon, and we'll just won't have to go that route.
Right.
I'm very hands-on, so yeah, this virtual, like trying to teach and then show like hand position. Cause I have a guitar student too, and I'm like trying to teach them like and it's hard, man. It's really hard. And same thing with trying to teach bass lessons. Like I can't be there to be like, okay, your hand needs to adjust here or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's rough.
It's really hard starting out a student. You know, that's the roughest with all the technique involved. If you've got somebody who's already playing, it's a little easier. But
yes.
Yeah, we tried doing some virtual lessons. It went through it, and I said, you know what, that's it. You ain't sick, I'm not sick. I'm putting my mask on. I'll see you down there at the university. So I just go down in person, like pretty much most of the time now. I've had my first vaccine, so I'll be pretty good to go pretty soon. So
nice.
Nice.
All right, so you're on your way. That's good news, because I can imagine, yeah, somebody said just starting out a student new during the middle of this has got to be next to impossible. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's hard
with all the challenges there. Right. Speaking of, go ahead, Neal's moving forward.
No, I was just going to agree. It's difficult because it's such a physical instrument. You got to show people how to stand, even how to balance the bass in the beginning. So it's tough.
Yeah, let me ask while you're forward, Neal, and anybody else who wants to answer. This is a Delphio question. Now, all the years, and I've asked Delphio this face to face. Delphio and I, we're friends, so we good. But I always like to, since I have a room full of bass players, one of my earliest introductions to Delphio, when he was producing Wynton and Branford's albums, he would always put this on the back of the albums, that this album was recorded without the use of the dreaded bass direct. Yes. So, yes. Bass players, what is the bass direct and why should it be dreaded? Go ahead, y'all. Tell me.
I'm gonna let you got this one, Neal.
Well, I mean, the bass direct is just a pickup, Okay. It's the it's the recording equivalent of a pickup into an amp. And I was a young lion. So obviously in the 70s and late 60s, the pickup became popular. And I get it because it's easier to play and you can hear yourself and whatnot. But when I came up, man, it was, I've never had a pickup. I don't even own a pickup to this day. I've never had one because I love the way the bass sounds naturally. And that's what Delphio and Patrick Smith, who engineered all those records, were talking about. Just don't use a pickup. But that's a subjective thing, obviously. But that's awesome.
What about live? What do you do live? Because that's like recording with a mic is one thing, but playing live when it gets a little bit, you're playing with a drummer and stuff. Yeah,
I just, I've always been super stubborn about it. Like my vibe has been like, I'm not a sound man. I'm just bringing my bass and me. That's what I tell people. And there's a lot of gigs I did not get because I was like that. But my vibe is like, you know what? The drummer's playing too loud, and I'm not gonna join in, man. If you want to be insensitive, go ahead. I'm not gonna assist you. I'm not gonna turn it up. Your music's supposed to be quiet, and I think there are times where I'm not heard, but if it's just at the loudest portion of the song, I don't really mind that much. But I'm kind of stubborn about it, so that's just me.
Okay, so the bass direct should be dreaded. All right, so
not for everybody. I mean,
it's a sound though. I ain't gonna lie to you. Sometimes it actually sounds decent for some recordings and some vibes, but it's if you're trying to play like say for like 30 swing or something, it's dreaded. Don't do it. Do not do it. It sounds garbage.
Well, I'll say this. Let me say one more thing. The bass players who sound good with a pickup and direct, I think played without one first for a long time.
Okay, yeah.
Like if you listen to Sam Jones in the 70s, it's kind of ampy for me, but it's killing. You swing, it's a beautiful tone. because he played without one for 30 years or whatever. So I think that's important. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna mention. You know, I've been checking out a lot of Ray Brown lately. You know, he's a huge influence. But you know, we all have. But you know, I always thought he had his strings like a mile high off the fingerboard and it played like really hard. And I've been watching him, and no, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing like he did work. You know, he did pull pretty hard, but he was using a pickup, and the strings weren't like a mile high up. So like especially those ones when he's a little older, you can hear the pickup on those like live performances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he had a beautiful sound. I mean, same with Ron Carter. I studied with Ron, and his sound's beautiful on the gig. But when you get in the room with him and he's not plugged in, it's so pretty, man.
I've heard some like those lives or like somebody recording that's like right next to him, and you hear that acoustic sound.
Yeah,
it's a good sound. That's an important thing. I think it's actually important to know how to do both. But the biggest thing is you do have to have a good acoustic sound, because if you don't have a good acoustic sound, then
I'll bet you are. I struggle with the pickup. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it definitely.
Go ahead, Shannon. I'll be trying. Go ahead, Shannon.
Let's keep doing that.
All right.
No, I was gonna say it depends on the room too, because you know I know myself, you know, playing lots and lots of gigs where it might be a small club and not necessarily all straight ahead jazz or something like that. You know, that pickup's really helpful. And that's Neal. I'm glad you answered those questions, because I was wondering about like Harry Connick and you see the Lincoln Center, Carlos playing that gig, and I don't ever see him with an amp or a monitor, you know, and that kind of thing. But you know, you play in these nice halls, you get at least the chance to be able to hear things better. So
especially if you have a good bass that speaks too. Like one of the basses I'm trying to let go, my 38 American Standard, that thing is loud and punchy, and I've literally like played it in some like groups, some big band joint, like we're doing like recording stuff. And actually, I have a video. One of the guys at one of the churches I played, he was recording on the phone in the back, and you can hear me just boom, doom, 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 doom with gut strings. It's like it's punching through. So if you got like a good like projecting bass with the sound, sometimes you know that's all you need for that.
Yeah, for recording too, it's like, you know, that's when I definitely dread the pickup. You know, I'm always like, you know, engineers like to have that direct line just in case if they see a pickup on there, you know, and I'm like, nah, just cut that out, you know. So I definitely don't like it in the studio at all.
I've gotten in so many fights with sound men. Hundreds of fights. And I'm like, I don't have a pickup. And they don't even get it. They're just, what do you mean you don't have a pickup? I don't have one.
Especially like
deal with it, right?
Like
I'm like, I know I don't literally have one. No choice.
Especially with good strings, though.
In a minute, just to, we're going to play a clip from, since we're talking a little bit with Neal here and talking about the pickup, we're going to hear Neal probably without a pickup in this clip. We're going to
probably not 100%.
Right? Okay, but while we're getting that clip ready, quick question, Neal, about working in TV. You've you mentioned earlier that one of the different things is the fact that everything had to be done in 2 minutes. It was a lot different than what you were used to playing in. So talk a little bit about some of the challenges. I mean, I know it was a lot of rewards, especially financially, probably playing with Harry and doing the TV show. What were some of the musical challenges you ran into during that time playing with on the Harry Connick show?
It was interesting. It was a different set of skills than we usually use. The biggest challenge was the amount of music you had to learn. Every day we'd come in and do 2 shows, and there'd be about 15 or so songs a show, because you're playing, you know, the commercial in, whatever, commercial out, whatever the special guest was. And, you know, Harry wrote 100 songs in the beginning, literally, of all styles, jazz, funk, country, everything. And so for me, it was just, you had to be ready to learn some new music every day pretty much. And you had to be sharp, because, you know, they have a guy in the ear telling you when to stop and start, and you got to stop clean. And it's you really had to pay attention and just keep your head on a swivel. Just be ready for anything.
Wow.
Okay. Well, I can imagine. Well, we'll listen to a little bit of Mr. Neal Sugar Caine here, and something that he did a few years back. We're going to, I believe I hear Betty, is this the Betty Boop piece I believe we're going to hear, Neal?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, we're all finding out together.
Let's all find out together.
Let's hear from Neal Caine. Okay, a little bit from Neal. Nice work there, Neal. We had a little trouble hearing. Maybe
I should have used the bass direct.
I wasn't going to say.
No, just kidding.
No, but some very nice work. At least what I was hearing just reminded me a little bit of some of the work that Percy did with not the MJQ so much as with the Heath brothers, as when he was working with his brothers and he got to stretch out a little bit out of the constrictions of what the straight jacket sometimes that John Lewis would put him in. It was some very nice work there, so much appreciated. So a couple more things we want to hear. One more clip. I know we're a little bit over time. I'm trying to see if we have any questions that I may have missed. I'm afraid to press the chat button because the last time I did that, I was gone. And so I want to make sure that that doesn't happen to me again. If there are any questions that could be pressed to the front that I need to see, if we can put them back up, that would be great because I want to do one. Okay. Let's see. We'll tell Christian I said hello. Okay. Well, no, that's
wrong chat. You in a private chat.
Wrong chat. Okay. All right. Hey, now here's something. All right. Now I'm on the comment side. Everybody can still hear me. Okay. Butler Knowles is
Hey, my man.
Yes, Butler. Can everyone drop your top 3 basses? I think that's a perfect question for right now. Give us your top 3.
Then I'll go once.
Yeah. All right, I'll go first. Wilbur Ware. Well, not okay. Israel Crosby. Wilbur Ware. Jimmy Garrison.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Thank you, Neal. Top 3.
I gotta say, Ray Brown, Francois Raboth, and probably Charlie Hayden.
Okay. Somebody else. Speed round here.
I gotta say, Paul Chambers is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Hinton, of course, and then Ray Brown. It's like there's too many to name, to be honest with you. But those are the 3 I'm gonna go with.
Okay, Shannon.
Too many.
Mine, yeah, it's a really hard question. But yeah, Chambers, Ray Brown, those are the 2 that I really listened to most. And I'm a big John Patitucci guy, you know, and electric bass too. So he's been a big influence for both instruments for me.
Okay. And how about you, Mr. Brendel?
Oh, Charlie Hayden, Gary Peacock, actually, I like a lot. And I'd have to say Paul Chambers.
Okay.
I got to mention Stanley Clark too. We got to give him some love.
Yeah, we need a bigger list.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There he is.
That's his new bass. That's a new
Definitely
Stanley
got to
Clark
give Stan
bass.
some love,
Wow.
there, man.
Oh, you know
yeah.
what? I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. This is one of the ones that I'll be remiss if I didn't say.
Go ahead.
Slam Stewart. He is
Oh, yeah.
actually one of my because I love both solos. So like Paul Chambers and Slam. Whoo, man, and they're both
Christian
gut
McBride.
strings.
Christian
Yeah,
McBride.
for modern, yeah, but it's something like Slam just has this sound, man. I don't know. Oh man.
Yeah, I was going to ask about. I'm glad you mentioned Christian. I was going to ask about modern cat. You know, a lot of we tend to look at the historical. People. Anybody else that you're listening to? Some of your contemporaries. Obviously, you have the other cats here on this call, but anybody else? We have had a mention of Christian, who gets a lot of ink these days, more than anybody else. But anybody else who really is catching your ear?
I like Taurus Mateen.
Mm-hmm.
People don't talk about Taurus Mateen much. He plays with Jason Moran. He plays this kind of acoustic electric thing. But man, when you catch him on the upright, man, he's swinging his you-know-what off.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anybody else?
Grenadier.
What's that?
Larry Grenadier.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Larry Grenadier, yeah, that's another name. Anybody else?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. There's two cats I've been listening to quite a bit recently, and one of them is here on this chat, Mr. Neal Caine and Ben Wolf.
Yeah.
They just got the sound from me, man. It's that gut. I love gut strings, so like that sound, and they're just big on it.
Yeah,
Probably Chris Wood too, right? Chris Wood. How about Chris Wood?
Oh yeah.
I gotta check him.
Oh man, he's amazing. I was really into him back when he was with Medeski Martin Wood, and now he's with the Wood Brothers. So quite an amazing bassist. Not quite jazz, more like but the MMW stuff was more jazz funk.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one just I wanted to throw into the mix, young lady, and not the one you're thinking I'm going to say, but Miss Mimi Jones. I don't know if anybody's gotten a chance to hear her work. She does a lot of work up and around.
I've got one of her albums. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. She does some very fine work. She also ran her own label there for a couple of years.
Nice.
Yeah, Camille Thurman made her debut on Mimi Jones's label, but Mimi does some work. She's married to a very fine pianist, Luis Perdomo, and they also do some work together. So I just, the fact that I'm getting blank stares means one of two things. Either y'all really hate her work, or you've never heard of her.
I'm trying to get hip. I've never heard actually.
What record company does she have? What's the name of the record company?
Her record company? Oh my goodness! Now I've mentioned it, and I can't remember the.
That's all right. I'll check it out.
Hot Tone. Okay, it took me a second. HOTTONE. Hot Tone Records.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
So she had some good players. She did her own thing, and Shirazette Tenon, and also Camille Thurman, and some of her early things were done there. We are a bit over time, so we'll get toward wrapping things up. We just want to make sure that you do know about the recordings that three of these gentlemen have that are generally available. Shannon Hoover's very fine EP from 2012, Follow Me, definitely worth picking up if you have the opportunity.
Thanks.
Available at Amazon and any place where fine music is sold. Also, from Mr. Neal Caine, Backstabber's Ball. It is rare but wonderful. You can also get the MP3s as well. And Ron Brendel has a number of projects, the most recent, as we mentioned, Tribute to the Basis of Jazz, Volume 1. Mr. Ledbetter and Mr. Vergato, have we missed anything from you project-wise?
Not of my own. But
Okay,
I've been on a few things. So.
All right, so tell us about something that people should give a listen to. Will.
So I play a lot in like the Lindy Hop swing community stuff here in North Carolina, and one of the cats I love playing with, Keenan McKenzie. We've been doing a lot of virtual stuff, so I think he might be releasing something like that. But the last like album that he did, and I was a big part on, it's called a Bull City Holiday. So it's holiday stuff, but it's still a good timeless album of a lot of original compositions that swing hard.
Okay, all right, Mr. Vergato.
Yeah, I'm on a couple of albums. I'm on an album called Relatively Speaking by my good friend Andre Ferrari. It's in a band called Airstream. It's a fusion band that we can't play every now and then. I'm on electric bass on that album. And then a friend of ours, another friend is Rhonda Kramer. She put out an album about 2 years ago. I play upright on that. But it's about time to get in the studio, do with some of my own stuff. That's right. That's the name of the album.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good solo on Bloom on that recording.
Okay.
That's the upright solo.
All right. Well, we seem to have lost Mr. Brendel again. Unfortunately, he's coming back just for the closing. Ron, we did miss.
Sorry, it's not been my night.
It's all good, man. You know, we were just mentioning projects. We did get out talking about people should pick up tributes to the Basis of Jazz Volume 1. Will there be Volume 2 coming anytime soon, since you named it 1?
That's the plan, but I don't know how soon it's going to be.
Yep. You know, we'll if the Lord be willing and COVID don't rise again, I guess we'll get it out there. So hopefully we'll see that. Gentlemen, Neal Caine, Ron Brendel, Dave Vergato, Will Ledbetter, and Shannon Hoover, it has been a pleasure having you with us and having you spend a little time with us. Also, we thank you, our audience here at Conversations with Curtis, for spending this time with us as well. And thank you so much for supporting jazz. And hopefully we'll be able to see you again sometime live in the very near future. As always, my name is Curtis Davenport. You can find me now and always at my station, that is Kurt Jazz Radio, on the Live 365 platform. We play music from the gentlemen you've heard here tonight and everything else that you want to hear in jazz. So till that next time that we are together, I wish you all health, happiness. Please be safe. Please listen to and support these artists wherever you can. God bless you, and we will see you the next time. Have a great evening, everybody. See you next month.
All right. Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Same here.